Hello everybody, today we're going to be going over your first fall foliage forecast here, and we're going to be talking about the average time of your peak fall foliage, and then we're also going to be talking about if I expect it to be earlier than normal or later than normal for your specific area. I'm also going to be going over why I think that in today's video. Now, I'm gonna reference my fall forecast in this video, so I'm actually gonna put a little card in the top right corner. You can go click on that right now, and you can go check out that video if you want to see a little bit more in depth on what I think overall for this fall. So let's start talking about your fall foliage and especially your average peak of fall foliage. Now I'm gonna uncover what every single little color here means in just 1 second. So here is in this kind of brownish area. This is in October 10th or earlier area. So this is where you expect to get your first or your peak fall foliage before October 10th. So very early. This includes parts of the northern Great Lakes and parts of northern Minnesota, as well as parts of northern upstate New York and northern New England, and then also another region there for the northern and central Rockies, where you, of course, in the higher elevations especially, you get very early fall foliage peaks. Now, in this kind of maroon color here, we have an October 10th to 20th peak on average for these regions, and this includes kind of areas surrounding the Rockies, including the Northwest. This also includes the Sierras in California and Nevada, and then also kind of moves up into the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and then down through the Northeast as well. Now, here is from October 20th to 30th to 31st, so from the 20th of October to the last day of October. This is in this kind of orangish reddish color. This is where you expect to get your peak of fall foliage in that time frame, and this is for the surrounding areas of the Sierras, especially north and east of there, and then also for parts of the northern halves of both Arizona and New Mexico, up through kind of just along the border of Colorado there, and then down again throughout the Midwest and parts of the lower Great Lakes and into parts of the Mid Atlantic and even parts of the Appalachians in those higher elevations, seeing a peak of between October 20th and 31st. Now, as we start to get further to the south, by November 1st to 10th, this is when you're getting kind of in this lightish orangish shade right here. This is when it's starting to get a little bit later, but this is again your average, and this includes parts of southern and central California, throughout parts of southern and especially central parts of Arizona, southern New Mexico, much of northwestern Texas, and then through the western half of both Oklahoma and Kansas, down through Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and then through the Tennessee Valley, and then up through the southeast coast there around the Appalachian Mountains, and excluding parts of the southeast coast there. That's where you expect to get your average peak fall foliage between November 1st and November 10th. Now, also something I want to mention, I'm going to also be doing this same type of format for another two videos that I'll most likely update one or two more times. I'm going to do this for my first snowfall forecast, so when you should expect your first snowfall, and also I'm going to do this for when you should expect your first frost, and I'll be doing both of those within the next coming days. I'm going to try and fill it in throughout one of the days where there's not too much current ongoing weather, and I'm going to try and fill in the space with those videos. Now, here is kind of in this yellowish, lighter orange color, almost a yellow there. November 11th to 20th in this region. That's for extreme southern California, extreme southern parts of New Mexico and Arizona, as well as southern and also parts of central Texas, as well as the eastern halves of both Oklahoma and Kansas, and then northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, down through the western Tennessee Valley, and then into parts of the deep south, especially the southeastern coastal areas. And then finally, this is where you're expecting a very late fall foliage peak. And this area don't really see a fall foliage or those really a real fall foliage as you might expect in some areas further to the north. The trees don't turn really red, especially as you get into Florida, southern Louisiana, southern Texas. Really, not too much happens with the leaves. If you will get any change in the colors, it's going to be November 20th or later on average, but I will show you what I think if this will be earlier or later just in just 1 second. So Here is my fall forecast in terms of your temperatures. And by the way, you can go check this out. This is for my first preliminary fall forecast 2020. I'm going to be updating this later on this month, so definitely make sure that you are keeping an eye out for that. I'll be making my second fall forecast for the year of 2020, so you can go check that out. And again, I'll put another iCard at the top right hand corner of the screen, and it'll also probably be in the description of the video. Now, here is the fall forecast again, and we had well above average temperatures for the southwestern United States, also for parts of the kind of the northern plains, and then down through into the Great Lakes and the Northeast. And for the southeast, we had slightly to moderately below average temperatures, especially there for that area between Texas and Oklahoma, all the way to about Georgia. That's where you had the most intense cold air. Now, here is my prediction as to whether this will be an earlier or later peak of foliage for all these areas. So in parts of the southeast, I think it is going to be earlier than normal, again because it is going to be colder. You might be wondering why I'm not putting parts of the south central in there, even though if we go back a little bit, we did have some colder than normal temperatures, at least expected. That is mainly because I do think that's going to be coming earlier on in the forecasting period, and your average peak foliage for these regions are almost into the winter time. So by the time that cold air is there, it's probably going to be retreating by that point, and it's not going to have as drastic an impact on your peak foliage time frame. So there's a lot of different factors that are coming into place. Your average time of fall foliage, when the coldest air is going to be around, when it's going to start retreating. So that's what I've been taking into account for this forecast. And you see, for parts of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and a little bit of eastern Tennessee there, earlier than normal peak foliage for those regions. Now, here's a large area where I put later peak foliage. That's for pretty much the entire western United States west of the Rockies, also for parts of the northern plains, down through parts of the upper Great Lakes, and into parts of the northeast, especially the interior northeast there, seeing most likely later than normal fall foliage. That's mainly because even though I do think later on in fall, probably between the November 10th to 30th time frame, getting into the winter, I think it will start to get colder. It's gonna be mainly because these areas average their their peak fall foliage in early October, and some areas later in October, but still that same period I expect to be in a warmer than normal. I expect them to be warmer than normal. That should lead to them having a later than normal peak foliage, and then we even have an area of much later peak foliage, and that would be for parts of the western United States, pretty much west of the Rockies for these regions, and that would include parts of Arizona, Utah, parts of Wyoming, into Idaho, Washington State, and then also into Oregon, Nevada, and California there. That's where I'm expecting, again, much later than normal, and that would probably be by a factor of about 10 to 20 days in terms of how much later it will most likely be. Now, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.